Ciao, I'm Kate Portanova, your host, Italy experience guide, and lifelong lover of all things Florence. This podcast is your ticket to discovering the authentic side of Florence in Italy, one story, one dish, and one piazza at a time. Whether you're dreaming of sipping espresso in a bustling cafe, wandering cobblestone streets filled with history, or connecting with locals to experience La Vera Italia, you're in the right place. Join me as I share my journey of living, breathing, and embracing Florence's beauty, culture, and charm. Along the way, we'll explore slow travel, cultural immersion, and the simple joys of Italian life, with plenty of insider tips and heartfelt stories to inspire your next adventure. So grab your cappuccino, before noon of course, and let's dive into the magic of Florence together. Ciao, it's me. I'm back. Today's episode is a love letter to the city that changed my life. I've noticed there's a lot more people subscribing to this podcast, so I thought I'd give you just a little rundown of my love affair to Florence, to Firenze. The first time I walked in Florence, I immediately felt something change in my body, change in my being. It wasn't just the fact that I was surrounded by art, architecture, amazing statues, amazing buildings and palazzos, and like the Duomo. Oh my God, the Duomo. It was something deeper. And as I record this, I'm looking at a picture at my nonna or my nana holding me. I was probably about 3 years old, and she's just smiling and staring at me. And she is the reason why I feel so connected to Italy. She was born in a small town outside of Modena. She kind of planted the seed for Italy for me, even if she initially never wanted me to go to Italy because of her experience during World War II. She just didn't understand it. So this city really took me into its arms, and as many students that are in Florence every single day, every single year, not everybody lingers and stays there and lives there or chooses to go back like 5 or 6 times as I did until I made it my permanent home. It's a city that welcomes you, but yet you have to understand the rules and understand how to navigate through the government and banking and paying your rent, paying your bills, all the things. There's just something about knowing that I created something out of nothing, and I did something that no one in my family has ever done except my nana, vice versa, moving to America. I feel it's pertinent to say that it really, to be able to follow your dreams or to create something that's possibly the most craziest thing that your family or anybody's ever thought of, I say do it. Don't stop just because others think it's crazy. Do it. When I first walked down those cobblestones and looked up at the Duomo and went to my favorite church, there was like a silent whisper I can describe that was like, you belong here. Like even after my study abroad 3 months that we were in Florence, like I told everybody when I came back to university that I'm going to move to Italy and I'm going to live there. And they're like, yeah, sure you are, Katie. But I was adamant about learning the language. I went as far as to find as many courses I could do near Chicago, where I'm from, and it never stuck because you have to be in a place to learn the rhythm of life, of the language, of the people. I was not drawn to Florence just because I had fallen in love with an Italian, which many Italian I did see, but it was more the people and not just the beauty of the city, but the beauty of the rhythm of life that I had to get used to when I moved there. Understanding that there's always a siesta in the middle of the day. So if you live in an area where everything closes, oh shoot, you can't go grocery shopping. You know, you can't go to a cafe because it's closed or anything like that. I think being in a city where it does have its own personality and also being able to navigate the language. When I moved there, I was not fluent. I had been dabbling in courses when I was a nanny, and then when I was when I was there for 3 months in 2005, but I wasn't able to just pick it up and start speaking right away. It took me a minute. Actually, it took me longer than a minute, but when it finally kicked into my brain somewhere around probably 2010, when I was there and I was starting to dream in Italian, I was like, I think I made it. And there's a shift that happens when you are becoming a resident of a city, from being a visitor to becoming a local or to becoming a resident. You learn how to properly introduce yourself in Italian, either formally or informally. You know how to order a coffee at a local cafe. And you know how to like greet your fruity vendolo, which I had one. His name was Eugenio, and he was the sweetest, sweetest little man. He called me Ciccagese, and he was great. He would always give me extra veggies or extra like spices or herbs, but he was the sweetest, sweetest man. That shift is very important, because when you travel and you're a tourist in Florence, it is a completely different type of living, type of interacting when you are a visitor or a tourist than when you are a local. So you understand when you go back to a city that used to be your home, like what it's like to be a local. But when I left in 2013, a lot of people didn't understand why I left, because what they saw was the tourist Florence, the tourism Florence, where you go to a restaurant after restaurant after restaurant, and a museum, then a art gallery, then, you know, a tour. And life in Florence was not like that. Like, it was hard. It was a different type of living. And I struggled. I struggled a lot, but I learned to overcome those struggles and still to love the city that I still call my home to this day. Some of the moments that changed everything about me living there were just the moments, and I've spoke about this numerous times, the moments I spent sitting in my church and either crying or meditating or just taking deep breaths because it's been hard or it's been tough or I'm trying to change my job. I don't know where to go. I was making pennies, and the strength I felt after I left that church was remarkable. Another really cool moment that I'll never forget. And again, I've said this numerous times, but those of you that aren't going to the very beginning of this podcast, I'm going to say it again. The pub that was in Fiesole, where we lived as students, was called JJ Hill. And there was a bartender there. His name was Massimo, I think, or Massi. And he would not let me get my glass of wine until I said it properly, a phrase in Italian. I'll never forget this. He wanted me to say it the right accent, the right phrase. So the sentence is vorrei un bicchiere di vino rosso. And years later, when I was living there in probably around 2010, 2011, I don't know, I ran into him and he remembered me, which is what makes Florence such a special place, because it's so freaking small. It is a really small city with really big buildings and a really big heart. So slowing down, that was something that when I moved over there in 2009, I think I was in my late 20s, pretty sure. So I had been grinding at trying to make a living here in the States, and then I just don't want to be here anymore, you know? But when I got to Florence, and basically my goal was to just teach English, because that was like the best thing to do. Being a native speaker, that's all these language schools looked for, were native speakers. But what sucked about it is that they paid you pennies. They paid you like €10 an hour, which was nothing. And I had to work really, really hard to make a lot of money and to save. So slowing down in between the chaos of like trying to pay your bills and the responsibilities I had and everything. But what was different in that time in my life than I do have now is that I didn't have a car. I didn't have, health insurance to pay, or a car insurance, or I had internet, but a very, very low amount of internet I paid because I couldn't afford it. I had no other big expenses. I had a bike, so I had my bike maintenance, but like, I don't know how much I spent, probably like 20, €30 to have them like fix my brakes and tires and stuff like that. But I did not have the expenses that I do now, owning a home, owning a car. I have 3 cats. So the idea of slowing down back then was so easy once I understood that like what I have is what I have and that's enough. Like I knew I was going to make a lot of money teaching English. I was able to save money. I bought one of my last MacBooks by just saving money because my rent was really low, which was really rare. It's not like that anymore, I know. But I was with a friend. He had me pay like pennies, which was great because I was making pennies. And yeah, I learned how to take my time getting to work, take my time getting to an aperitivo. I enjoyed my 20s. I enjoyed my early 30s and just explored. I experimented with how to live my life and what do I want to do. Like there was a lot of like soul searching during this period. And one of the biggest soul searching ones is always with my friend Pasquale. And Pasquale is now, gosh, I think he's in his mid to late 60s. I have not seen him in person since 2021. I think that was the last time I saw him. And those of you that don't know, he's my little guru. And Pasquale is from southern Italy. He's from a small town in the region of Basilicata. And he was somebody I leaned on a lot when I lived in Florence. And when I met him in, 2007, maybe I met him. I can't remember. I hardly spoke Italian, but we were still friends. He understood me. He understood English. He just didn't speak English. And I had the most amazing, and I still have the most amazing friendship with him, even though we're far on other parts of the world. One day he borrowed his brother's car and he's like, hey, do you want to go to the Sagra in Santa Brigida with me? And I'm like, sure. I love a Sagra. A Sagra, if you don't know, a Sagra is a food festival. Like kind of think about your hometown, like festivals in the summer, but these are year round. And the locals like make their specialty, whatever they're famous for, and you pay hardly anything. It's very, very cheap. And you get to see a cool town at night. And usually there's dancing and there's a DJ. I mean, it's fun. It's really fun. I always loved going to Sagras. And when I met Stefano, we went to a lot of Sagras because there's so many amazing Sagras in Tuscany. So this one, I forget the specialty of this in Santa Brigida, but I remember it was definitely July. So it was the depths of summer of like heat. And he took me to this place where he wanted to buy this house outside of Santa Brigida. And we walked up to it. It was abandoned. And the story goes is I won't go into the whole depths of the whole story because I wanted to keep this episode kind of short just to tell you my love story with Florence. But we walked into this yard. And again, this was at twilight. So the sun was just about to go down over this hill. And he had grabbed a bag from his car and he's like, hey, come with me this way. I'm like, okay. So we walk through this like prato, this field, and there's all these trees everywhere. And all of a sudden I started hearing this like over my head. And I know that sound because I've heard it. And I'm like, Pasquale, what is that? He's like, oh, it's a calabrone. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, a calabrone is an enormous bee that you can only find in Italy. And it can kill you with its sting if you're allergic to it. But they're very, very violent bees. Like, I wouldn't say they're killer bees. They're like just violent. But they love being around sweets. So where were we? We were in a field of fig trees and he was frolicking around, picking all these figs off of these trees that weren't his. This is a private property. And I am like cowering and he's like, here, come with me. And I had another extra bag. He's like, here, let me put these in the bag. And he's just like wandering around. I'm like, Pasquale, oh my God. He's like, Kitty, just relax. They're just trying to get to know you. And I'm like, okay, but why aren't they coming by you? He's like, well, they already know me. And I always remember this story because it's like, he basically was giving me kind of a lesson of just kind of relax. Things are going to turn out. Things are going to be okay. Don't freak out. Just let things sit and let things simmer. And in the end, nothing happened to me. The calabrone, he stayed above my head. He swarmed around his head, but Pasquale had no fear. I had fear. No fear. That night, so we went to the Sagra. We ate. Then we went to this other prato, not the same one, and we laid down in the grass. And this was probably around 10 p.m. And we saw a shooting star. And I heard like a voice in my head that just said something to the effect of, you're in the right place. You're on the right path. And I told it to Pasquale like immediately. I'm like, Pasquale, I just heard this voice. He's like, of course you're on the right path. What are you talking about? Of course you are. What do you need to figure out? He would always tell me, stop thinking about your path. It's already happening. So he gave me this kind of like pseudo like confidence when I was really not confident in where I was going in that period. Anyway, that was one of the moments. I have so many moments with Pasquale, but I digress. I can go on and on. I want to mention just some of my favorite spots, which no longer exist, but they were my favorite spots when I was living there. Luca and Leo, they were brothers-in-law. They had this amazing panino shop near Porcellino, which is the Porcellino market, the open air market. I loved going there after my lessons. I sit there, have a glass of wine. We chat about life. I listen to people talk about politics and Italian government and all the fun things. And that's how I really picked up a lot of my Italian, from just listening. Like, that was one of my favorite places to sit and just listen. Even if they asked me something, I would respond, but I mostly just wanted to listen. Pangi's was another amazing restaurant. It was owned by a family. They sadly sold, but that's what happens in Florence. Things turn over a lot because it's expensive to have an establishment there. The taxes alone and everything, the permits. That was a fun place. Me and my friend Laura found that place and we would go there a lot. And Stefano, I introduced her to Stefano. It was really, really, really good. Really good restaurant. I have so many other places, but I don't want to wore this out. But one of the places that is still around, it's called Mangiarino. Mangiarino. I think that's how I say it. And it's near the Duomo, and it is a really good restaurant. And I'm going to put this in the show notes. If you happen to go to Florence, go there. It is a small place. They do have a downstairs area too to eat, but so good. I've never not had a good meal there. That was one of Stefano's and ours first date. That's why I say. Anyway, what has Florence taught me about myself? Well, it has taught me that I'm very strong, I'm very proud, and I'm very determined, and I persevere through it all. It brought me closer to being present with the world and being present with my friends. Back then, we didn't really have cell phones. I mean, we had cell phones, but we had no smartphones. Towards the end of my stay there, me and Stefano got our first iPhone. But before that, it was all Samsung, that Sidekick. I mean, all those phones that just weren't smartphones. So with all that being said, my connection to Florence and to Tuscany is very, very strong. And this is why I created Truly Italy. Because I have so many stories and so many people that I want you to meet and that I want to share these types of really slowed down experiences that give you a sense of life there. Not just a check. I went to this vineyard because it's in my grocery store at home. No, I want you to talk to people. I want you to interact with people. I want you to meet the people that have stories to tell and crafts to share. Because when you leave this earth, are you going to remember all those places you just checked off your list? No, you're going to remember you just went to Italy and I have a bunch of pictures to prove it. I want you to leave having a feeling that you lived in this place for a week or 2 weeks if you plan on doing 2 weeks with me. I want you to fall in love with being in Italy. Not just the idea of Italy, but being in Italy in an authentic space with authentic people. So I encourage you to think about all the places that you've been, not just Italy, if you haven't been to Italy, and think about what it means to belong somewhere new. And I know being a traveler in Florence does not make you somebody that belongs, but it could be okay, I belong in a place where I get to interact with people. I belong in a place where I can learn about the history and I want to learn about these craft. And I want to tell my friends when I get home about Gianluca and his delicious, delicious pisci that we made. I want you to feel like that. I want you to have that feeling. And if this at all resonates with you, I want you to really think about joining one of our trips in 2026. Because what I have created is something very unique, authentic, and bespoke to the region of Tuscany. And I'm really, really proud of it. And I really, really want it to thrive. And I really, really want to be doing this with other amazing travelers and amazing people. Because there's a reason why I call you travelers, not tourists. Because when you travel, you really dedicate yourself to that place and you focus on that place and you interact with that place in a way that when you're a tourist, you don't. I see a tourist with a check, check, I did that, check. A traveler is different. A traveler really wants to go deep, dive deep into the culture, into the language, into the people, and then take it home with them. and share those stories with their family and friends. Because traveling like this is something that majority of people do not do. And I was on a call with some friends a few weeks ago, and they even said to me like, but I just want to get it done. Like, I want to just see everything. No, if you think that that's it, like I have one trip and that's it, I'll never go back. Okay, maybe that is you. Or maybe it's, I want to do this one area, and then maybe I'm going to go with Katie again in Puglia and see what it's like there. Because I know we are not promised tomorrow. We're not even promised this next hour of our lives. But I implore you to try to think about traveling in a way where you drink it in, like the fine wine that you will get with me. And you smell those beautiful jasmine flowers and the lavender as you walk into the villa. And you taste the delicious sauces that our chefs and Nonna and Gianluca and what they make and serve to us. And that's my spiel. I thank you for listening today. I'm very passionate about this, as you can tell. I'm going to leave all the information in the show notes. If you have any inkling to join us in 2026 for our Truly Tuscany experience or our Truly Sardinian sailing experience in September 2026, I'm going to leave all the links there for you to sign up. And I'll reach out to you ASAP. Allora, buongiorno, buonasera, buonanotte, wherever you are. Now, see you on the next podcast. A presto. Ciao, ciao, ciao. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the heart of Florence and beyond. I hope today's episode has inspired you to slow down, embrace authentic travel, and connect with the beauty of Italian culture. If you loved what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the magic of Florence and me with your fellow travelers. Until next time, remember, the best way to travel is slowly. Ciao for now. See you in the next episode.